Hey guys, welcome to Survive and Thrive. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to make simple snares for small game trapping. It's a very simple thing. This is the snare right here that we're making. I put some electrical tape right here because I haven't completely finished it yet. I'll be using some of this stuff and this blowtorch to actually melt the thing on there. I've spliced the cable together, but we'll get to that later. But as you can see, I have a simple snare using just a clamp and about 1.5 feet of 1/16 96-pound test cable. So we'll just go over some of the supplies you're going to need to do this. I have electrical tape that's just for safety purposes on the end of my cable. But what you're going to want, depending on how many snares you want to make, is for small games, you're going to want 1/16 96-pound test cable. 96 pound might sound like a little overkill, but you don't want the animal getting out of there. Also, it can be used, you can catch slightly bigger animals with up to a 96-pound test. So these are lightweight and easy to put in your kit. So there we have our 1/16 96-pound test cable. We're going to want clamps to make the actual loop part. These are 1/16 clamps for my cable. These things you can get them for anywhere between, I've seen them as expensive as like $1.25 to as cheap as 25 cents. I got all these supplies at Tractor Supply Co. I don't know if you have that in your area, but that's where I got these. So, also just to go over the cable again, I think this cable was 60 cents a foot or something like that. It's about average where I live to pay that much for it, but it's extremely cheap. I got 9 feet, and this is just left over from it. You're going to want some kind of tool. It doesn't matter what tool you use, as long as it can cut the cable. I'm just using some cutting pliers here. I have some small pliers here to tighten the clamps. So when you really start getting down there, it's going to be a little difficult to get in there with your fingers because it's small, and tighten it down to the point where your loop won't slip out. So you just want to tighten it all the way, so we'll put a nice bite on there so you can get your loop. So having this to be able to get in here and grab these bolts and nuts and tighten them up real nice is a good thing. So if you got a small little wrench to tighten things up, that's good. Lastly, I have over here some electrical tape. As I said, this is just for security purposes. Doing that, if you don't have a blowtorch and some metal to melt and close off the ends, then you can just do what I did here. That's why I'm doing it this way, just for like cheaper costs, and it might be easier for people to do. Because your snare, you don't want the end of the cable, all these little tail ends, sticking out and actually stabbing the animal while they're sitting in your trap. That's just inhumane. There's no point, there's no need to make the animal suffer. So now that we got our cable, our clamps, our tape, and any added tools all set up and ready to go, we can jump right in and start making our snares. Okay guys, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to measure out how much cable we want. Now you can use anywhere from 1.5 feet of cable to 2 feet to 3 feet. It just depends on what you're looking for when you make a snare. Now when I make snares like the one I have over here, I like to use about 2 feet of cable to about an arm's length. So if I hold this in my hand, and pull it, it comes up to about my shoulder, and as you notice, my hand is turned and pinching it, but that's about the cable length I like to use. So say you don't have a measuring tape, this is just one way you can measure it out. So I'm going to take my cable, just unwind it here. I'll try to keep all this in frame. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it in one hand just to measure this out, and I'm just going to go and pull up, take off that tape, and just pull the cable to where I want it. So measuring about the same, So my other snare is about this long. So realizing that I need to make the loop, I'm going to need maybe an extra 2 inches to make the loop. I'm just going to extend my arm a little more. And there we go. We have our piece of snare. So next all I'm going to do is take my cutting pliers, put the cable in it, and just clamp it down. Sometimes it doesn't cut all the way through, but you'll hear it pop like that when you've cut through. So now we got the piece of wire we want to work with. So you can take your excess wire and just ravel it back up. I'm just going to hang that up so I don't lose it. Okay, so now the next step is you want your clamp. We're only going to need one per snare, so I don't need this extra guy. I'm going to put him to the side where I'm not going to lose it. Which I like to do is take your electrical tape, put it right inside, because I'll probably make another snare right after this, so I know it's right there. Now with your clamps, all you're going to do is unscrew these nuts. Be careful not to fling them off and lose them. They're small, so they're really tiny, so especially if you look and see the junk I have sitting around, you need to clean this place up. If I lose these somewhere, I'm not finding them. So just try not to lose them when you get them off. Okay, so when you take it apart, you're going to have your base of your clamp, you're going to have your loop, and you should have 2 nuts with it. So this is what it will look like disassembled. Okay, now that we have our clamp disassembled and we're ready to go, we're going to take our cable and we're going to figure out where we want to make a bite. So what we're going to do is, I usually take about 1.5 inches to 2 inches off the end, and I'll make a bite in the cable. So I make a loop just like this, and now I'll take the base of my clamp and I'll set it up. It doesn't have to be where you want the exact loop right now, because we're going to tighten this up later, but we're going to lay it in just like that. I'm trying to make sure you guys can see this. I know I'm working with some small stuff. Then, once we have it in our clamp, we're going to take our U and put it back through, just like that. And we want to push it down as far as we can. This is just to hold our cable in place while we're working with it. Just give you some different angles. So these screws should be sticking all the way out. You shouldn't be able to push it anymore. Now all we're going to do is take our bolts and we're just going to screw them on as far down as we can get it. Now don't tighten them, that's the thing. You don't want them super tight right now, because we need to adjust our loop, because a loop that big, the snare will just come right off the animal. It will just open up if they... Okay, so now our cable should sit in there without us having to hold it. Now all I'm going to do to tighten this loop up to make it smaller, like my snare over here, oops, I have a nice little small loop. I'm going to grab the longer end of my snare and I'm just going to pull down. I might pull the tag end a little bit too. So in my experience, I like using a loop about this size. I hope you can see that on screen. And now that I have it in place where I want it, keep your fingers pinched here, because once you start putting tension on this cable, it'll try to pull itself back through. So when it's not tightened yet, it can still feed back through and you're going to have to do it over. So just make sure you keep your fingers pinched. Now this is where these come in handy, because my fingers are too big to tighten these. So all we're going to do is we're going to start grabbing them and twisting them. You're not going to be able to get full rotation on it, but just enough to tighten it, and keep going back and forth. You don't want to tighten one more than the other and make it crooked, and then you can't screw one nut down. And you're just going to keep going as much as you can. See, I've already gotten it to the point where I can let go, and the cable isn't pulling itself back through here. So we want to tighten these up nice. And see how I'm rotating? I'm going back and forth. I'm twisting this one. See, I'm getting to the end, and then I'm going back and twisting this one. Alright, so the next thing we're going to address is this tag end that's sticking off on this. So what I like to do is I'll break it up, or split it into two groups. So you have two different sections of it, and I'll actually cross under the cable, and then I'll cross them over each other. So hold on, I'll show you the bottom. This is the bottom. And I'm going to cross them, and then I'm going to come back up on top here and do the same thing. Now this is a little difficult because cable isn't that pliable. I don't want to stab myself. And what this is creating, it's almost like splicing it slightly, and you're weaving it so it doesn't stick out as much. This is where either electrical tape, or if I'm using the blowtorch, I'm going to use this metal. But just for ease of use, we're going to use some electrical tape. Now you only need about an inch and a half of electrical tape. Teeth, some natural born scissors. So then all we're going to do is we're going to put tape around the end here to cover up these little fibers hanging off. Just to create a little protection area. You can use duct tape, it doesn't matter. I just had electrical tape readily available, or Gorilla tape, whatever suits your fancy. Now this doesn't have to be an amazing job right here, but I'll try to get it nice and tight on the cable, so there's nothing extra it will get stuck on. So as you can see, you got it nice and tight up. You got no fibers sticking out from the cable, so it's not going to stab anything. So now our snare is basically done. So you can just feed it through here and you have this, and it will create some bite on itself. So for those of you who've never used a snare, basically you're going to set your snare up so an animal is going to come and walk through wherever you set your snare up and come through this area, and as it does, the snare is going to get pulled tight on it. And it's difficult to open that up. It actually kind of hurts my skin. But yeah, now the only other thing to address is how you're going to anchor this. If you want, you can buy 2 clamps and make another, like I have this clamp here left over. You could make another loop like this so you can stake it or whatever. You can buy you can make like an eye splice with the cable if you want, or anything like that. You can tie it off, stake it down. But I'll leave that up to you, your creativity. You can do what you want. I usually use another one of these and just make a loop on the end here, about this big. The only problem about this, doing it that way, is you have to make sure your snares are preset. So before you make that loop on the end to stake it down or whatever, make sure they're threaded through, because once you make it, this is not going to fit through that. So just a little heads up there. I've done that once or twice, not thinking, and then just creates more time and more work, because I have to take this off, re-thread it, then do it all over again. So, and that is how to make a simple snare. Alright guys, so today I showed you how to make a snare. I hope you enjoyed the video. These things are very simple to make, very cheap. This whole snare right here probably cost me about $1, not even. As I said, I got this stuff at my local Tractor Supply Co. store. If you don't have one of those, you can find all these supplies at any local hardware store. They should carry cable, they should have clamps, they should have everything you need, and they'll be cheap. Especially cable like this is not too expensive. And these clamps, as I said, you're gonna get. You can find these less than $1 in most places. So that being the case, you got a $1 snare. Now I've made 2. I'm gonna make about 3 with the stuff I have right here. So I'm just gonna throw these in my pack or kit. So I'll have a few snares on hand. But these are just simple to make, easy, and fun. Okay guys, so I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions regarding snares, I'll be showing some videos in the future of setting these up, where to set them up, what to look for. If you have any questions, as I said, feel free to email me, put a comment below. I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can with any response. So thanks for watching my channel, thanks for checking out my videos, and hope to see you around.